Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel after a bit of a break. This is Kathy Grimm, and the channel name is The Grimm Reader, and this is just going to be a general update. I might mention my books that I'm reading, but I just wanted to check in with everyone because it's been a while. I didn't really think it would be this long, but it's actually very good that I made the video saying I'm taking things off my plate. I remember I made that video, I don't exactly know when, at the beginning of the semester. Because what has happened is another sort of strange illness-related thing has happened. But, I'm fine. I'm always fine with these things. It's never anything generally, very serious. But what happened was the minute school started, I started having severe digestive issues, the main one being diarrhea, for basically after every meal at night. And it didn't get better. It didn't resolve. It got worse. And even thinking about it, my tummy's starting to hurt a little bit. But I do think I am over the hump of it. And as always, or as often is the case with digestive problems, it's really hard to figure out what's going on. And so as school was starting and ramping up, I entered into this trying to figure out what's going on with my physical symptoms. And I started feeling kind of sick. And a couple of times I had really severe bouts of pain, which in hindsight, even my doctor said you should have gone to the ER. And I still don't know what they were about. One time I severely vomited, and the other time I didn't because I had been given Zofran to not vomit, but it was still very bad pain. And so because of all these symptoms, you go and start having all these tests. And so I went and got something called a hiatus scan for my gallbladder. If you know, you know. It was perfectly fine, and my gallbladder apparently is fine. And then I also had a CT just to check that issue, and that it was fine. The only things that they found were, first of all, what I already know, the severe disc disease in my back, but there's two what do you call them, discs, L2 and L3, that they call it severe disc disease. So they're very degenerated, I guess. And what was interesting is that did kind of lead me to do a bit more research on that, and it kind of explains my problem with my left side hip pain. So that was kind of interesting, even though I already knew I had that. But it also something that apparently a lot of people have, but the doctor didn't bring it up, and I did Google it. Bibasilar atelectasis, which is some parts of your lung are a little bit not working right. They don't get enough air in. And I might do more. I might bring it up with her, but right now it's sort of like, okay, I'm better. So, and the problem is I'm working. So you can't really, I had to cancel quite a few classes to go to these tests. And after the bouts of illness, one time I just couldn't teach. I just canceled. The other time I dragged myself in, so I would be teaching at the same time, and that was hard. But I did it, and what happened? It kind of just got better on its own. So I started to have more normal digestive stuff, so that went away. And I was very careful about what I ate. I did eat. What was confusing is why we were thinking it might be gallbladder. That diet's very low fat, very much no sugar, no fat. And it's kind of got in the way of the low inflammation or low troubling your insides diet of bananas, rice, apple stuff. And so I got a little confused about what to eat. And I think that's kind of I made a sort of wrong decision while we were thinking it might be gallbladder. And then that caused the second bout. And so it's all very confusing, is what I'm saying. And it was not good. And it kind of leads into medical anxiety, which I don't think I have a ton of amount. I'm pretty used to this stuff. But what is psychologically interesting about these issues, when you don't know what it is, you're kind of hoping it's something, and of course you don't want it to be anything bad, just so you have an explanation. And I have this idea that people think I'm not really sick. Of course I really was. And the only thing that came back, the only sort of indication that something was physically going on in my body is that one of my blood values showed that in general there's inflammation happening somewhere in my body. One of those inflammation markers was high, elevated. And so that has led us to conclude that it's related to my autoimmune. So going way back to 2014 when I apparently had the rheumatoid factor and other inflammatory things going on in my body, And I did mention this to the doctor. While I was really sick with this digestive stuff, my hands were really hurting too. So that's a typical sign of rheumatoid, is when your hands are achy, both of them. And so that's really interesting and weird that perhaps the RA is still there in my body somehow, and it decided to attack the insides. And I've kind of stopped, we could still be testing. We could do an endoscopy. We could look for, it can go on and on. You can make sure, can look for if it's related to inflammation of some other part of the body. But I'm stopping it. For one thing, the copay, I keep having to pay a little bit of money for these tests, which is fine. I mean, it's not such a big deal. We have it. And then the other thing is, what was the other thing? I have to work and I have to focus on my classes more. I've had to skip a couple of both of them, and I could sort of feel like, since I am better basically, and even last night we had a nice meal and it was fine, I don't think I need to keep testing to find out stuff. But it was a real kind of doozy of a beginning of the semester. I've never had anything like this of illness at the beginning. So yeah, that's my general update of my disposition, I guess. And the whole time I have been reading, and I'm really enjoying what I've been reading, not very fast, not a lot of things. I've been kind of doing Victober before Victober, and I have been enjoying watching people's Victober stuff because I just love the 19th century so much. So just in general, what I've been reading, so something really strange happened. So I've been reading the last Palliser book, and I might do so Anthony Trollope, the Palliser series. So like, for me, it's just a fun way of distinguishing the Barsetshire stuff from Palliser. Barsetshire is cottagecore Trollope, and then Palliser is urban city Trollope. So you get a lot more of the city life, you get a lot more of the comings and goings of people in London, and you get a lot more of the Parliament, and that's why some people don't like it. I have a fairly high tolerance for political stuff if it's connected well to what else is going on. And I can give a sort of, I'm almost at the end of the last book, and I'm reading it, which is why it's taking me forever, as opposed to listening to it. Sometimes I would listen and read a little bit, because there's really good audios of the Trollope. But the last book, as I have mentioned before, the reinstated version where they've added back all the stuff that he cut too quickly, in his own opinion, he cut it too much. That's only available as a book from Oxford, I think. But what happened with my copy, let me show you. It's very strange. So, of course, it doesn't look like an Oxford book anymore because the cover kind of detached. It's all just kind of a big sticker on the cover. And so what I had to do was, instead of looking at a white book, I had to cathify it with my own sticker style, which is very sort of haphazard, but sort of cute haphazard. It doesn't really fit the vibe of the book because it has a bookstore. That's kind of urban. But anyway, I wasn't really paying attention to what I was putting on here. I was just kind of, and I wanted to put this here for the spine. I had to re-sticker my own book. It's not quite finished here because it was really just kind of haphazardly done. And I'm on page 564, and I only have about 100 and so to go. And I have loved it so much. I cannot tell you how much I have loved reading this book. It's called The Duke's Children, and I love the Palliser series. Perhaps as much as Barsetshire, but for different reasons. They're both really brilliant books, and they really kind of want me to go and read all the other Trollopes. I love Trollope, I really do. And so that's been wonderful. The other sort of interesting or surprising thing for me is that I really enjoyed, after listening to, I think, Kate Howe go on about how much she loves this book because she's rereading it, I read Wives and Daughters by Gaskell. And it took me a long time to even venture back into a Gaskell because I had disliked Mary Barton so much. I really thought it was a mess of a novel. And I think I still will if I reread it. This, on the other hand, was brilliant. This was wonderful. And I'm so sad it kind of just petered off because she didn't finish it completely, although you kind of see where the plot is going. It's absolutely amazing. And Molly Gibson is one of my favorite characters. I just loved her so much. It had such a modern feel to it because it's female centric in a certain sense. Wives and Daughters, and so there's a really awful lady in here who I hated. I forget her name. The lady that her stepmother basically, and then she has a sort of stepsister who's also really interesting as a character, and then her father. And really well written. I mean, the prose is top notch. So I kind of do want to come back to more Gaskell now after really enjoying this. And so what's interesting to me is I usually sort of like, well, not always, I'm thinking of Patrick White. I'll like one book and then I like them all from an author. Like Charlotte Bronte, I've loved them all. Jane Eyre, great. The only one I haven't read is The Professor, which I really should read. And on the other hand, I disliked Tenet of Wildfield Hall. I know you all liked it, or a lot of you like it. I think it's a lesser book. I mean, it's moving. I listened to it mainly. I didn't think it was very good. I didn't like it that much. It didn't, as we say, push me off my chair in German. Hat mich nicht vom Hocker gerissen. And then, because I do love big books, I cannot lie. And I remember seeing, Ohio booktube lady who I really like, who's a friend on Facebook. What's her name? Oh, I forget her name. With the dark hair and lots of kitties. Oh, what is her name? Anyway, I know she loves Follett, and I really wanted a book to fall into, and I found the perfect book to fall into. This is amazing. It's well written enough. It's very plot driven. It's not sort of literary fiction. But as a listen, which is what I'm mainly doing, and then I dip into, and you see how big it is. I mean, how many pages is this mammoth? 1,000 pages, looks like, and that's the first in many because it was such a big hit. I'm so glad this was a big hit because it's such a strange book, but it's sort of medieval for the masses, and it's like so, like page turnery. It's there's so much plot here, and it's like cliffhangers, and so much happens. Like I'm only on page. Where am I? I guess I'm in the 300s already, so yeah. But and I'm so glad I have this much to go. And I'm mainly listening to it, but I do love that I have a copy of it that I can look at. And there's so many people, and I love it so much. It's like a perfect sort of whisk you away to another place where terrible things are happening to good people, to bad, and there are bad people. There is a lot of strategizing and sort of manipulative stuff. In a sense, it's quite political, even though it's about, the 12th century. It's so I guess it's mostly a fair. If you like the Palliser stuff, you probably like this more than if you like the Barsetshire stuff, because it's sort of a lot of intrigues, and monasteries and stuff. But then it does center on this architectural notion of rebuilding this cathedral, which I also love. I don't know why, I just love it so much, and I'm so glad I've decided to Ken Follett, The Pillars of the Earth. I just had a feeling I might like it, and I was right. I love it when I'm right. I usually am at this point when I'm this age. So that's going well too, and I'm sort of almost at the end of Trollope, so I'm not quite sure what I'll do after that. It's sort of hard after you've had these big reads where you haven't had to worry about what you're reading. Not that I worry about it, it's kind of fun. I haven't looked at anything else? Not really. I mean, no, not really. I haven't had time because of teaching and everything. Yeah, and the world is a mess. And we're very, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. But on the other hand, we're okay. And I'm now okay. And I think maybe it was just not exactly stress. Stress sort of starts it. Maybe anxiety. But it really was a quite strong physical reaction to something, and an autoimmune thing where my body kind of overreacts in some way. And that's all I have to say about it. And I'm just glad it wasn't anything worse than that. Yeah, so that's my little update. And I know it's very general. And if I have the energy, and I would love to get into the depths of the Trollope more and give you a little bit more insight into how amazing it was. And with the Pillars of the Earth, I mean, I might get into it. I could talk about that too, more like the characters and what makes it so great, and just get back into sort of more regular posting. But I don't know. We'll see. We're heading into fall break. Right now, I'm still sort of trying to set my life up in the way I like to have it during the semester. I've been behind like basic things, like I have a pretty strict schedule about when I do my laundry and all that kind of stuff. And my birthday was a complete bust because I had the hydra scan on that day where I couldn't eat before or drink. I hate the fasting where you can't drink. It's the worst. But then even after that, I didn't have any appetite. It's come back, so I'll probably, I like to eat again. But for a while there, it was really sort of anxious because you feel like you should be nourishing your body and you can't because you're so afraid of having severe symptoms. And it's a certain type of irritable, maybe inflammatory disease, bowel, but maybe it was, like a Crohn's thing. But I don't know, is Crohn's a flare thing? I think it might be. So kind of got inflamed down there. I don't know. I haven't pursued that line of testing to the end because I'm better and I have to work. And the next time, if I ever have pain that badly, I will knock on my husband's door and he will drive me to the ER. I should not have put myself through those bouts of pain. They went on for about 2 or 3 hours of quite unbearable pain. As I said to everyone, it was a 13 on a 10 scale. It was a scale. It was a 13, and I thought if it goes to 15, I'll call someone. Don't suffer 13 pain on the 10 scale. For no reason should anyone have to do that, although sometimes people do. I will go, and I hope this general update gives you a sense of where I'm at, which is, recovering from something. I got this beautiful new orchid. Lucinda has passed, and we have a new orchid for which I need to find a name for my lovely colleagues who gave it to me on my birthday. They knew I wasn't feeling well. I don't know what her name is. She's definitely a she because of her color. Orchid. Ophelia. No, I don't know. I'll have to see. Anyway, that's all I have for you today, and I hope everyone's doing well, and I have been enjoying your videos, and see you later. Bye.